Hey Shay,
Hey, Vaughn.
good to see you after all this time. I've had some sabbatical, so to speak, taken myself overseas for the first time in 3 years, which was very exciting. And I have to say, it went very smoothly. Um, because only 2 weeks before I actually departed, all the mandates were lifted for Malaysia, which I was very excited about. And it was just real ease and grace. So yeah, my first trip back overseas in 3 years. So that was very exciting. Time out to regroup, and really because I felt that things were going to speed up and come very fast from now on, and so needing the rest. And so when I came back, the first thing that I got was, wow, I need to connect with you guys. And then, the topic that we're talking about today has just really come forward. So, how have you been in that time? Lots of things happened in your life.
Yeah, it's great to be back with you on this live video, of course, that we used to do weekly, and having a small break now. So good to see you after a little spell away. Really excited to dive into this topic, particularly around, going back to normal, which is what everyone has craved for so long, but that's really not seen the benefit of the cataclysmic events that have unfolded for us here on this planet, to
Yeah.
use it for a purpose and use it as a catalyst for transformational change. And yeah, I think we're in an interesting time period on the planet where things seem to be opening up, as you just mentioned, and going back to falling back into the old train tracks, let's say, rather than steering forth in a new direction for creating the new earth, which is what this conversation is going to be all about, essentially. And we just got Ted joining us in the live. Great to see
Wonderful.
you too, mate. Congratulations on the travel to Yvonne. And this invitation for anyone who's joining us live, just drop it in the comments section there, drop it in the chat. Today, as always, I love these conversations with you, Yvonne, because we get to have some really kind of deep and meaningful chats, particularly around what's unfolding and what's real and relevant, and looking at these old ways of being and how we can shift our priority to continue moving down a new way of being and creating this new earth. So yeah, I've been very busy the last few months myself, and particularly as a filmmaker working on another independent film that we're working towards, which is very exciting, which is to do with the inner journey and the personal work, the development that it takes to be able to find that sense of security and safety within, rather than always seeking it from outside validation and outside performance-based patterning that has been essentially embedded from an early age, from our childhood, where these kind of, I would call, like micro traumas even, that have impacted us where we weren't fulfilled as a youngling, and that led to this kind of coping mechanism, or this shift in our persona and the way that we are, which becomes our personality, which we've kind of some level shifted away from our natural essence, away from our natural core state of being, and altered in a way that we've having to shine or really prove ourselves or somewhat perform in order to receive that sense of wholeness and love and connection. And so the film it's really exciting one. We're only in the early development stages of it, but yeah, we've been busy with that. And also I've still had this like intuitive drive towards growing trees, particularly edible fruit trees. I really see the value in cultivating healing, high yielding crops that can be medicines and that can be food and that can be shade and have so many purposes and functions for beyond my lifespan, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years down the line. And so I've been growing a lot of plants from cuttings and seeds, and just building up a bit of a food bank in the soil, and then ideally looking for some land to, find a nice place to establish these roots for long term. So I've kind of been moving in that direction, but I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Yvonne. I'm curious to hear your take, particularly in with the community, around, some of these old paradigms, or these old kind of ways of being, slipping back in and maybe taking us away from our highest potential, let's say.
Yeah, look, I just love listening to you, because I know that, as I always say, you are the future. And when I look at things, I've just come back from a very different culture, of course, in Malaysia. It's completely different to our culture. But when I've returned, what I've realized is that exactly what you said right from the beginning. It's us, to me, it's like we're on a precipice of forgetting what it was all for. Why have we gone through this 3 years of trauma, in a way, trauma for the purpose of actually releasing trauma. And when I look at, the pull from within, which you're talking about, because you're talking about you really have this inner need to start to grow things, to to propagate and to plant and to create an environment that is in alignment with nature. And I think I wrote about it this morning, about with our origin, and that we come, and we've talked often about turning the formless into form, and we're starting to learn that about ourselves. The thing that concerns me at the moment, and it is really, I'm being pushed from, all my stuff comes from another place, and I'm being pushed to keep talking about it, when actually I don't really want to talk about it, because I feel it's like it's putting my attention somewhere where I don't really want it to go. However, what has happened, and with all of us, at the moment we're born, we are programmed so carefully into an outer gratuity, as a means of believing that that is what we need to be happy. And so our whole life, like you're talking about, we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for the approvals, the responses, the reactions, to then adjust ourselves to fit in, and usually where we actually wouldn't normally fit in if we were still in our natural state. And the 3 years that have just gone by, I believe, were absolutely essential for us to snap out of that and to go, hang on a minute. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? That question just keeps coming up. Who am I really? Am I just this shape person, this Von person? Well, I've become less and less of the Von person, because for me, I'm constantly being driven by this inner power. And so what I'm noticing that people are slipping back to, it's like, oh, well, I can go, and I'm allowed to go to the movies now, and I'm allowed to do this, and I'm allowed to do that. So now I can just go back to my normal life. And that just takes us away. To me, it's another distraction. And what I'm noticing is that we tend to then forget why all this happened in the first place. And that's what you mentioned right from the beginning. We become apathetic. We forget our priorities. And for me, it is constantly about priority. My priority has been for 35 years to create a new earth. And that means that has to come before anything else. And, I've met some amazing people in my life. And one person that I've met, and may she, rest in peace, I'm sure. No, I don't think she would ever rest. A little dynamite of a woman called Mary Kay Ash, who started Mary Kay Cosmetics. And I was very privileged to spend some very close quality time with her personally. And she had this wonderful philosophy in life, and she stuck with it. And it was God first, family second, work third. She never wavered from those priorities. Now, for me, as the word God doesn't always align with me because it's been hijacked religiously so badly. But the ultimate power of all energetic realms that we all come from, that fuels me. That comes first. It has to come first because that is the power of creation. It's the power of everything. So when we put that first, when we make that a priority, then all the other things like family and work just flows from that at a really high vibration. So the reason I was brought to this topic was that I'm starting to see people going, oh, I'm sorry, no, I can't do that because, I'm needed here, I'm doing that, I'm doing something else. And we're slipping back into the doing person, which is the personality over and above the heart connected being person. And I would like to bring people's attention back to that, back to recognizing that we are God's source in human form. And it is for us to create this new earth. Although new earth exists, it's for us to bring ourselves and to bring the collective to it. And what I'm feeling is like we're teetering on the edge where it's up to us. It's not up to anyone out there. So if we lose our focus and we get distracted and tempted, and with all the trinkets and all the goodies, then we're going to teeter back. We're going to repeat it all over again. And I'm too tired to do it all over again. So I would just really like to encourage people to come back to the heart and the soul and drive their lives from there. And then, then we will move over the edge, and then the road will open and all the beauty comes. And you have learned, and I certainly have learned, that when I'm in that high vibrational frequency, everything is smooth. And I can say that because I've just slipped out of that vibrational frequency this morning. And my whole day just went bang. And before I came on with you, I went, hang on a minute, I need to raise my vibration. And I do that through, vibrational frequency music, because everything is sound and everything has a frequency. And here I am. And the minute that I tune into that higher field, the flow is back and everything is in its place. So that is really why I want to have this conversation with you, to bring the attention back to, no matter what the outside is showing you and how much more freedom you're supposedly granted. Why does it have to be granted? That is my question. We need to create the freedom from within ourselves. And so I would like to call people to attention and going, what is your priority? Why have we just gone through this? And how can we maintain our focused intention and still do all the other wonderful things that are available to us?
Wow. I just love that invitation into a deeper self-inquiry, self-reflection, particularly at a time when we could definitely utilize that more and more in our daily practice. And going off what Mary Kay had said, like the order of priorities being that connection to source and creation or God, and then family and work life, bringing that into the world. That's beautiful to hear and be reminded of, the importance of integrity in a daily movement towards, what we know is possible. It's almost like we have the potential to be able to focus our energies on a particular point or a way of being and a lifestyle, and allow that ripple to, immerse itself throughout the community. But often we can get so distracted by shiny objects or other elements that we think is going to bring us safety and security and comfort, or like you said, is going to give us some sense of fulfillment, when really the truth of it is, and most of the majority of the people listening will have experienced this, that it is not an outside game, but it's an inwards game. And to find all of those feelings of fulfillment and of joy and of an expanded awareness, it has nothing to do with what's going on outside and everything to do with what's going on inside. And that's just such a beautiful realization. For it sounds so simplified and easy. It's just like, yeah, go within and you'll be sweet. But the reality is, it's like, my experience is going within, I really start to feel, oh my God, there's a lot of tension in my body and in my chest and shoulders. And, I've got a lot of emotions that is running wild through me. I've got to express. And it's just like, it can be quite confronting ultimately to really discover what's happening in the inside. And then once I come back into the material physical world, realizing, wow, all those distractions that I was chasing after have just been a coping mechanism to keep me busy from actually taking the time to create the space to stop and take a deep breath and realize, whoa, there is a lot going on here. And then it's like sifting through all of the emotional patterning from my past to find the clarity and the stillness around what do I really desire for the world and for myself and for my family. What kind of environment would feel naturally just ease and grace in a practical way, in a collective way, in our relational way. And often when I've taken the time to stop and reflect, it's not all of the shiny objects, it's not all of the material possessions or accumulation of wealth, but it's actually in the deeper intimate connections. For me, it's been in that order of like connecting to my family more intimately and taking time to receive and listen to where they're at in their journey, and showing up for the community and my friends. And there's so much gold in these simple ways of being that it seems like in our westernized, modern, civilized way of being, we've done such a great job, and it's to our detriment to isolate ourselves to a point where there's so much fear that we're trying to just cope with the intensity of the emotions, of the feelings, and not really remembering what it means to be a human in this lifetime. And I just love the way that you speak to that, Yvonne. And I'm curious what your guidance would be for people who are really, desiring to find out what it is that their role is in this lifetime, in this moment in human history. Because it seems like this particular point in time, whether it's over 10 or 20, 30, even 50 years, we're seeing very intense, rapid change on a collective level. And many people, I sense, are kind of waking up, let's say, to realize that, oh, okay, working, all day, every day for in a job that I really don't like, or in a vocation that's not really in alignment with where I want to be, and doing it, depleting my energy and my health to sacrifice for something that will give me a very short-term, instant feeling of gratification, but in the long term fizzles out. what would you suggest is a really great approach to be able to navigate, some large changes that they feel they might want to embark on, or how do people, find that sense of purpose within themselves to be able to move forward in a beautiful way in the world?
Well, that's a really beautiful question. And, there's this inner seeking. From the day that we become aware, we're seeking something, always seeking something. And of course, we've been programmed to look outside, as we said before. We have an internal barometer that will always keep us on track, will always keep us aligned with soul and source and the reason for being here. This question of the meaning for life. Goodness me, that has been asked for so long. But people are so busy, they really haven't stopped and thought, well, what is the meaning for my life? Well, I haven't got time for that because I have to cope. I have to cope with the daily maintenance of life. I have to, this morning I fell into 3D big time. And it was important for me because I had to go there to deal with an issue that has come forward, and it has to do with the bank. And it was the way that the mistreatment of the honor of the customer. And, I in the end, I became so anxious, and I have not felt that energy for years. And I thought, no, I can't allow the outside to have that impact on me, because I have found the answer. I found the answer to being aligned and the meaning for life. The meaning for each individual on this planet is whatever the soul incarnated you for. You didn't just drop here by accident. There is a reason. Each and every individual on this planet, and every life, whether it's a rock formation or it is a tree or all the plants, have a special individuated code of frequency that turns it into the form that it is for a purpose. So when we can come home to that question of what is my purpose, then do not think that that purpose is to be a street sweeper or to be a banker or to even grow forests. Yes, that may end up being where you will find your joy. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you need to be guided with, and what this internal barometer offers, is inner peace. When we are at peace within, and I really felt that this morning when my inner peace had gone out the window, and I'm going, oh my God, this is how people live out there. It is so pertinent for me to feel and to recognize that is how I used to live. And then that realization that I had the power to say no to it. That was it. I had the power to say no to it. This is not, and I actually said to somebody, and they probably didn't know what I was talking about, I don't live in your world. I do not choose to live in a world where I'm dishonored, where I am not served, where I am not feeling aligned and peaceful. That is not a world I choose to live in. And this was like blah, blah, blah on the other side. But I speak my truth. So when we come to that place where we can really only look for that barometer inside, which says, when I am at peace within, everything outside will align with you. But when I'm constantly seeking outside and I can't find that inner peace, then I am in what I call the coping mechanism, which you're talking about. I'm coping with life. I'm maintaining the outer picture. As where when you feel content within, when you can feel that inner bliss, And that comes from acceptance and knowing who you are, and not accepting yourself as the personality. I'm a good person. I always ask people, what's your value? And they go, well, I'm a good person. I don't care whether you're a good person. What's your value? Well, I'm kind and I'm considerate. I don't care whether you all of those. What's your value? And ultimately, I get them to change their perception of value. Our value is that we are something, some energetic force decided to downgrade its enormous energetic frequency into this tiny little being. And I want to know why. And I'm humbled by that. And I'm going, well, I better find out. So I've got to stop being so busy with the outside world and just find that stillness where I realized I'm valuable because I am. I don't have to do anything. I just have to sit here and recognize that being a part, every breath I take, every thought I have, every word I speak is impacting the universe. Now, if I take accountability for that, would I not take great care of what was coming out of me? But people don't know. They haven't been taught that. So they're blurring out language that they were imprinted with but never think about. Oh my, this is to die for, and I love you to death, and all of that. I'm going, whoa, okay. Language that we use that does not give us what we actually require for inner peace and alignment. So, yes, I would like people to start to ask for only one thing in life, to be in peace within. Because when you are at peace within, and whatever that takes, and what it takes is to love and accept self as we are. Doesn't matter, warts and all. And then we can look at ourselves and go, well, maybe I could have done, be better. Then be better. Don't judge it. Just be better. Just go, well, messed up a bit, but that's okay. I learned from it. I'm going to learn from it and be better. So it is simple. It takes continuous focused intention. It's this daily intention and priority of my first priority is to give my life meaning, not to keep looking for the meaning, but to give my life meaning. And self-judgment and judgment of others and constantly looking for someone else to do it for you, none of that gives you meaning. Find meaning. We can go out and we can sit and watch a butterfly and just be in awe of how nature expresses itself in so many different encoded frequencies. What a magical world we live in. In that moment, you're one with the butterfly, you're one with nature, you're one with that force that creates all things. And in that moment, you have a moment of oneness, of inner peace. But instantly the phone rings and someone needs you, and off you go. So we need to spend more time in that stillness. It starts with willingness and making a decision. That is the most important thing in your life. And the more of us that do that, the universe will just be there for us.
Such an empowering conversation. Wow. I mean, like really what you're speaking to is finding that inner peace as this is a journey of self-mastery, and probably the most beautiful journey to embark on as a human being on this planet. I mean, of all the journeys we get to take in life, that's the ultimate, really. That's the holy grail of our existence. And yeah, I really loved what you shared around instead of searching all the time for meaning, creating the meaning. And I think it's Tony Robbins. He always says, we're meaning making machines. And it's another way to look at it. But it's a beautiful thing to recognize that we get to create the meaning for our lives. And what is it that brings us fulfillment and joy, and where we feel a sense of connection. And that's a choice that we get to make. And everyone's going to be uniquely different. That's the beautiful part of it. It will all be these wonderful creative expressions of the divine creation. And we have this incredible capacity to imagine, and to be creative. And that's just that we become the expression of that source. And it's so beautiful to hear your perception and your way to articulate the experience of finding peace within. And it's often what I find sometimes is that we can really spiritually bypass what's really going on by trying to focus on peace within. But the way you explained it in terms of really discovering what's happening inside, and I think the words was when we align our purpose, we feel peace. So it becomes like, it's really interesting because it becomes like really seeing the interconnectedness of the material physical plane, but also when it's in alignment with our higher purpose and our mission in life and the meaning that we find from that, then things just seem to come in naturally, quite easily and elegantly, where it's not a forceful push and we gotta drive and we gotta make it happen, but things just naturally unfold in its natural succession and in its natural timing. And it becomes like, it's almost like you could still be active in the actioning, but sitting back and enjoying the unfolding of the evolution of life, and being in a place of more acceptance of this is how it's meant to be, and recognizing that that's all should be accepted, even like bringing it back to the notion that we're currently going back onto the old railway of pre-chaos 2 years ago. Things, we could probably all recognize that something needed to change, essentially, in the way that we're constructing our societal frameworks, that we're ready for somewhat of a new system, a new earth, a new way of being. And to consider that there's probably likely a large cohort of people that are falling back into the old default, old programming, old patternings, which is seemingly inevitable for the way that the universe operates in its spiral formation. But that again is presenting another opportunity to remember and return to what is our natural orientation, or our natural state and our natural way of being. So I feel similarly to yourself and somewhat concerned. Only I feel more concerned that we would be going back into those old, somewhat normal way of being, if there is no kind of awareness that comes with it. Because from the perspective that I'm in, like I sense that our lives will naturally always kind of go in this like cyclical pattern in cycles, and we will always naturally perhaps fall back into those old emotional patterns from the past that obviously don't serve us, but we can use those as catalysts to remember again the broader meaning of life, and use that to guide us back towards that centeredness and the alignment to feel the peace within, and create an environment and a reality that does feel more fulfilling. And so the concern is that we get stuck back in their old ways of being, rather than breaking through and seeing and just going, oh, okay, yeah, here's this pattern playing, this emotional pattern playing out for me again. What are the tools that I have available that I've learned over my life, or I've inherited, or I've cultivated and developed, that I can use to break through this old pattern again? Because it stinks to be thinking and stuck in my head and judging and or whatever it may be. And so it's like, how can I just remember those simple practices that help me regulate my nervous system in my body, to feel calm and feel a sense of stillness, feel a sense of peace, and then take that guidance that I've been practicing and cultivating, and move forth in a way that is going to be beneficial for myself and my family and those around me. And I feel like more than ever, this, the practices, the spiritual practices, it's like so important to somewhat double down on. And something that I'm really passionate about is the self-sufficiency practices. Because what we're seeing on a macro level in the economy is, all this talk around energy and a reliance on external energy for all the benefits that we've had in terms of technology and lighting and heating and food and so forth. But what about our own energies and our own way that we're choosing to direct our energy, which is somewhat what you're talking about in terms of our priorities? Where are we putting our energy and our energy of our thoughts, of our creation? What are we focusing on? What's our intention? And what are we creating in this reality? So I feel like this conversation is so timely in that manner, because it feels like we're like you said at the very beginning, there's this kind of lull in the moment where we've hit this big wave and we're coming back into this, this wave of somewhat level of complacency, without having a concerted effort towards, what we all know to be true in our heart of hearts around the way that we structure our societal systems and our communities. And a large part of our communities in today's day and age, in the old paradigm and programming, is based around our work environment, where in these cities where most people are not having that daily connection to a natural environment, a natural source, a natural way of being, and that can ultimately shift us out of very quickly that sense of feeling peace within. And of course, it's a balancing act, and kind of because what I have noticed in some of my friends as well, and in myself, is this pendulum swing from like working full-time, full yang, stressed out, adrenal fatigue, and then swinging off to the other end and going off into the bush and out into nature and spending, weeks and months fasting, and total extreme on the other end of the spectrum, but then like swinging back to the other side. And it's kind of like, how do we find that middle ground and find that equilibrium that's going to bring a sustained long-term vitality of life and meaning, as well as health, but in a manner that is, we're able to continue for many years and many generations. And I get a sense that having that longer term vision and kind of consideration, not just for myself, but again for future generation, is a beneficial role in the development of having a consciousness around the new earth. And that's something that I'm curious to hear more about from you, Yvonne, like spending some time with your grandchildren. How did that impact you in your priorities and where you choose to spend your energy, spending the last 3 weeks with your grandchildren?
Well, yeah, so many things have just come up with your conversation. I love that. To answer the last one, Well, for me, my grandchildren, it's a constant opportunity to show them the way. Um, because there is a huge fallout, and I think this is worldwide, with our children who have gone through this lull, as you talk about, where they were forced out of their social interaction with each other, and they went into isolation, some with siblings, some without, and then some went online, and it was all very unnatural. And then when all of a sudden some power says, oh yes, you can go back to school, there's no debriefing, there's no easy going into, there's just gaboing, and all of a sudden they're in a class of 26, and all are, all have different emotional reactions to these things. There is such a terrible mental health fallout in our children, and that I think is a good thing, in that it's forcing parents and teachers to look at it and go, hang on, we can't cope with this. This is not working. Something has to change. And I'm seeing very excitedly that it is being taken in hand, and we are changing. That is forcing the education of our children to change radically. So I always look at, I'm a bit of a Pollyanna. I look at the bright side always. So I was just constantly encouraging my little grandchildren, because I have 6, and I have 5 and one on the way. So and they're all different ages, but I'm always there to shine the light and to encourage them, and to be an example of the years of work that I have done on myself, and to share that with them. And they are so responsive. So that really brings me to what you said about this self-mastery. That is absolutely the first thing. Know thyself, right? How many times do we have to be told that? And the one thing that causes the greatest trauma is not what comes from the outside. It is our self-dialogue. So, whoever listens to this today, I encourage you to pay attention how you are speaking to yourself. And I know you're going to say, oh, I don't talk to myself. Well, you're at it 24 hours a day. Okay, there is something going on inside of you that has an opinion of you, that has a judgment of you, that has a something of you. There is this constant internal dialogue, and the internal dialogue is created by how you have been treated, how you have been disapproved of, the ticks and crosses at school, how you have not won in a race, all of these things, when you not been enough, when people haven't had time for you. All this is transferred into a dialogue that is non-stop in there, badgering you to tell you that you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. So that is so imperative that we absolutely control our self-dialogue, that we start to treat ourselves as we want to be treated. Because if we don't do that, if we're constantly looking for someone else to give us the love we seek, someone else to give us the kindness we seek, someone else to give us the approval we seek, that is a never-ending journey. That is never good. That is never going to give satisfaction, because the other people are looking for exactly the same thing. So when you can come and you can just look at yourself and say, yeah, I have flaws. I'm human. Goodness gracious me. But you know what? I love me, irrespective. It is this self-acceptance that we've got to come to, and it's the change of the self-dialogue that is causing this inner trauma continuously. What another person says about you has nothing to do with you. It just tells you where they're at. But what you say to yourself has everything to do with you. And it has the greatest impact, more so than anyone else's input on you. It's how you treat you. How caring are you about you? How kind are you to you? How much tolerance do you have for your mistakes? How much joy do you give? How much joy is it just to spend time with you? How much do you laugh with yourself and at yourself? Um, this is the thing that I feel that we just haven't recognized. So this self mastery that you're talking about is essential, because that is how we will lead people into this higher state of consciousness, where there is peace, where there is love, where there is harmony, and where there is abundance, abundance of everything. And that is another thing, and that could well be another conversation we can have, because our past three conversations that we had with Sol about prosperity, I've been asked again, when are you doing another one? Because we have this distorted belief that our abundance has to do with coin, and our abundance has to do with our fulfillment, as you said before, our fulfillment emotionally, in our friendships, in our relationships with self, with each other, and with nature. That is where abundance lies. And if we look at ourselves, no matter how few coins are in the wallet, when we look at where we live, we can always find abundance in a flower, in the purr of a cat, in the purr of an elephant. I had my 83rd birthday while I was over there. And so my grandchildren and my daughter and husband decided to give me a birthday week. And it started with going to this amazing sanctuary for traumatized elephants, because they're my favorite creatures because of their wisdom. They have an ancient wisdom within them. And I like to touch them and just connect to their heart and soul. And but while in Bali one year, and if any of my community are listening to that who were there, we had the most amazing experience when actually we were riding some elephants through the jungle. And because everything's about soul connection, I asked them all to take their shoes off and put their feet on the back of the elephants and send love and connection to soul on them. And we had 4 elephants all in a row, and we went to a place where they could drink away from them. It was just beautiful natural forestation, and they all stood in line, and all of a sudden they lifted their trunks and trumpeted, and then they did something magical. What they call it, rumbled. I don't know if you ever heard an elephant rumble. It's like a purr from a cat, but imagine it coming out of an elephant. And they only do that when they're incredibly happy and content. And all 4 of these elephants in a row had this incredible sound coming from them, this vibration. And the Mahouts went, oh my God, I have no idea. We have never heard this before. They never do that. And it was purely because what we were giving them. And that's another thing. Stop looking for what you can get out of life. What are you giving to life? What are you giving to life? What are you giving to you? Are you giving yourself stress? Are you giving yourself judgment? Or are you giving yourself love and acceptance and forgiveness? We have to forgive ourselves for all the little misdemeanors. We're little human creatures, and we do the best we can. If we don't pay attention and want to do better, well, then of course you're just going to have to suffer. So yeah, for me, it's all about mastering self through self-love and self-acceptance, and fix your self-dialogue. Stop abusing yourself, because it is killing you, literally. So that's really my words of wisdom today. And I know that this morning, that's another thing. Once you make an agreement with your soul that you want self mastery, that you are willing, we talk a lot about willingness, that we are willing to learn more, to be more, to live in a new earth. And then we go back, bang, life just hits you in the eye because there is no way back. There's no way back. You know, very quickly you realize that you've fallen off the track. Wow, that was a lot, wasn't it?
So good. So powerful, Yvonne. Thanks for sharing such great wisdom. So many golden nuggets in that. And thanks to those who are tuning in as well. Like Ted is obviously really enjoying this conversation as well. And there's many people who are also joining, watching live. But we hope you guys who are tuned in and stayed with us through to the end have got value out of the conversation and the video. And we just invite you to share your nuggets of wisdom with us too. Maybe write a comment, let us know what really stood out, what was a highlight for you, what really made you feel, you know, what resonated and was really like a wow, yeah, I feel that too, because I definitely resonated with a lot you had to share there, Yvonne, so thank you.
I just would like to say, if you would like to connect with me, best to connect with me on Facebook. You know, Yvonne Tio Bors, and the other, and of course, Earth Hero TV. What a wonderful job you're doing, Shay. So I do encourage people to be part of your wonderful platform, and let's just keep moving forward with the priority of a new Earth, because yes, it is there. We can have it. We just have to move into it and stay moved into it.
Absolutely.
So thank you again for this opportunity, and I just love our chats.
Thank you too, Yvonne. You're amazing. Love you so much. And see you next time.
Bye bye.